As for Masai and the Raptors, we're probably going to have to deal with this for 2 years, and it speaks to who Masai Ujiri is, that he's getting the same treatment that superstars get. Like, this will be on ESPN, Fox Sports 1. Where's Masai Ujiri going? Who's going to get him? Because in New York, they're just going to peddle it nonstop.
Yeah. Well, guess who this is on? This is on MLSE. I mean, everybody wants to make, the New York media makes too much of this stuff. Washington, Wojnarowski's dropping stuff about Washington on the day the Raptors win the title. U.S. media can't handle Toronto succeeding. No, this is about Toronto not handling its business.
Well, he's got 2 years left on his deal.
Right.
So what are they supposed to do?
Well, you tell me what they're supposed to do.
Well, how much is enough? Because if you're Masai right now, why would you accept $10 million a year? 15? Why would you right now?
Well, I guess
honestly,
obviously,
if the Knicks look at him as the chosen one, they're going to give him $15 million a year,
right?
Minimum.
In the locker room, as the champagne was popping after the Raptors won the title in Oakland that night, not San Francisco, Oakland, at the soon-to-be decommissioned Oracle Arena, Larry Tannenbaum, the chairman of the board of Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, 25% owner of the franchise, said to the effect, Masai is like a son to me. I think this was the money quote. I think Masai has everything he wants. Well, that's quite an assumption, isn't it? I think Masai has everything he wants. This, by the way, in a spring when they'd just given Brendan Shanahan a 6-year extension to be the president of the Maple Leafs. And how many playoff series has Shanny won?
No, not any, as far as I know.
Like, by the logic of giving Shanahan a 6-year extension.
Now, his deal was up. It's an important part of the context.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, every deal is renegotiable.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all negotiation.
That's true. It's not a salary cap situation.
It's not a salary cap
situation. You go
situation.
to him and rip it up and say, let's talk.
There's no parameters on executive contracts.
Right.
The one I have today may not be the one I have tomorrow if I can make it otherwise.
But here's why I think they're going to be delicate with that. I think a lot of it is them trying to protect Ujiri. Because what if they are going to him and saying, let's rip this up and redo it, and he goes, no, I don't want to. If that gets out, he's going to have to face the fire in Toronto. Why don't you want to be here? Why wouldn't you renegotiate? What's the holdup? What more could you want? Is this true that you're going to go to New York? Is it true that you're going to go somewhere else? I think we're seeing it right now, to use a recent example in the NHL, where John Chayka, the GM of the Arizona Coyotes, came on today.
Yeah.
He was on Leafs Lunch, and he said publicly they're not going to negotiate with Taylor Hall. Which I can't. Why would you not negotiate with Taylor Hall? He's exactly what you want.
Yep.
You said you've got goaltending, you've got defensive structure, you've had a tough time getting stars down there. He is one. You've got all the money in the world in terms of the cap, maybe not from an ownership perspective, but why would you not negotiate? And I think that is more a ploy of, I don't want to say we're trying to negotiate, because then you're going to go to him and say, why aren't you signing? And it's protecting the player. And I think that could be the situation here with Ujiri. Tannenbaum, it's easy for him to say, we got 2 years, we're going to figure it out. I'm not convinced that they actually feel that way. But if it gets out that Ujiri turned down a 10-year extension, whatever it is, $15 million a year, how am I supposed to react? You supposed to react? Raptors fans supposed to react? Other than to say this guy's going to leave in 2 years?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
so why put him in that position for 2 years if he's going to do it anyway?
Fair point. I don't think it's any kind of position. The position remains the same, right? If there's all this talk swirling around what you may or may not do with your executive future as the president of the Raptors, and having the ability to write your ticket anywhere you probably want to write it, whether it's Genie Bus in the LA Lakers that comes calling, because I think that's a possibility, a real possibility.
Yeah. I don't believe the Knicks. The Knicks they're a joke.
Well, here's the thing,
Dolan is still the owner.
Well, here's the thing, though. This was the scenario that was being floated around not too long ago. What if you had enough power? And I would say if anybody has enough power right now, it would be Masai Ujiri to write a contract that stipulates that you never have to speak to James Dolan as you run the New York Knicks. I think that's a possibility. Like, that would have to be the contract, right? The only way you're working for James Dolan is to work for the company he owns without ever speaking to the man, right? Because the idea that this guy's going to have any influence over what you do as the president of the New York Knicks, as the guy who's going to be the savior and restore order to the mecca of basketball, the only way you're doing that is if you never have to ever share the same room with James Dolan.
Yeah, he's
right?
got to be completely out of the picture.
Yeah, he cannot be part of it.
But who's to say that? Why would that happen now? Because
Why
we
would
say
it
the same
happen
thing in
now?
Dallas. Like, if you're the next coach of the Cowboys, don't you go to Jerry Jones and say, Jerry, not going to happen.
Different thing, though.
He's the owner of the team. They're both
Different
owners.
thing, though. Different thing. He's the owner of the company that owns the team. He's being pushed in. If you read the New York papers on a regular basis, he's being highly encouraged to split the Knicks off from the company that owns the Knicks, to separate himself from the Knicks in many different ways.
Right.
If not only for the PR issue, for the performance issue, for all the other fact that he's a hated man in New York City, which doesn't help him. Although, hey, it's not hurting Donald Trump. All those things stacked up. There's some pressure on James Dolan to find a way to make the New York Knicks relevant.
I
again.
don't dispute that. I just don't. I think that's been the case for a long time in New
but
York.
this is new pressure. I mean, you're only a few years removed from Phil Jackson failing.
Yeah.
That was a major disaster. The fact that your team's terrible again. I mean,
He owns the building, though. I mean, you can separate the team, but at some point, you basically have to say, you can't be in the building anymore,
right,
which would be unprecedented. What owner in the history of sports has been told and signed a contract? You're right. I will not even step foot in the building.
I don't know if it's about being in the building. I think
'Cause what's the point of owning the team?
No, it's basically about. Look, he owns the Rangers and never says a peep about hockey.
Well,
right?
we don't know that.
Well, no, that's apparently the case. I mean,
Well, because Sather was his guy, and Sather's his buffer, effectively. But, I mean, listen, I haven't heard anything. I don't know about what's going on with him and the Rangers. Maybe he doesn't have a passion for the Rangers. But the Knicks, I mean, he's courtside a lot. He's in the building a lot,
Yeah, it's a prestige thing for him, and as it should be. But, no. Anyway, bottom line is, if
no one wants Masai to leave.
But the thing is, like, if any executive had, like, that's the tantalizing thing if you're Masai, right? You've got the power to do so many things that the average, GM in a golf shirt doesn't have the power to do, right?
Yep.
You're a different level type of executive, different than we've ever seen before, probably. Maybe Jerry West had that kind of aura around him when he had the success he had in L.A., on top of the fact he was the logo. But I can't think of many guys, if there's any, that have had this kind of a moment where they are the commodity, the all-knowing power, the chosen one. They don't call executives the chosen one. That's reserved for players.
Yeah, no, you're right. I have not heard that term applied to an executive. It speaks to what he's accomplished, but also his charisma, his image. Because I would argue, as great as Masai is, Bill Belichick is greater at what he does.
No doubt.
But you got to put up with Belichick.
Right.
And Belichick is going to play by his rules, and he's not going to sugarcoat it, and he's probably not leaving. The door never really opened for him to leave New England. I'm sure there are other examples that you could point to. But, Masai, he's in a universe all by himself. I mean, at this point, in terms of who he is
my
and what
point
he
would be,
represents.
and I think what you're saying is right about the fact that, like, maybe there's a holding pattern going on here, but Masai's got to know one thing: you don't stay hot forever. There's a certain strike while the iron is hot. If you are the man of the moment, right? And so he's not dumb to that. This is one of the smartest, cagiest guys we've ever come across, if not the smartest, right? And calculating and cutthroat.
He's got
and
it figured
unsentimental. And if you think anything's not in play, if you think his ambition is limited, you just haven't been paying attention.